it's Sunday, and this week we are talking about the great outdoors. Who are why? Oh my god, setting this up outside is such a nightmare because Miles is just not in the mood to be helpful. Okay, happy Yorkshire Day, everybody. I'm filming this on Saturday, and Saturday is Yorkshire Day, and for those of you who didn't know a Yorkshire person up until now, hi, yeah you do, and so we all get to celebrate. I don't really know anything about what Yorkshire Day entails, other than if someone hands you a white rose, you say thanks very much. So we are talking about the great outdoors, and it's kind of pertinent given that I was saying that it's Yorkshire Day, because like the landscape of Yorkshire is really formative for me as a person. There's a string of mountains that run down called the Pennines, and I'm from the Pennine region, which means everything is very like Cathy Heathcliff and Wuthering Heights and, you know, bleak landscapes with douchebag dudes usually. As a kid, they were always really informative, you know. They were a space that I lived in a lot because I did a lot of horse riding. So I was always outside and I was always doing things. And I think like deep in the core of me, there is something about that geography that just really makes sense and speaks to who I am as a person. And I don't know if I'd be the same person if I was born, you know, maybe somewhere flatter. Like Ted Hughes is my poet of choice most of the time. And he was the first time that I ever read about these landscapes, kind of that were a world that were familiar to me, that I knew what was going on, and I was like, yeah, okay, I can get on board with this world. Check out Ted Hughes' Wind. It starts, "This house has been far out at sea all night," and it's just, that is one of my all-time favourite poems. But I was also, my mum's side of the family are also from a tiny fishing village on the east coast of England in East Anglia, and so the other side of me is very much ocean-based, sea-based, and I'm obsessed with the ocean. I've always kind of considered myself like this combination of like fire and water, really, and the sea has always been just this space where I can go and I can feel better and I can get inspired and I can breathe even, you know, the air is different. So it's always mattered to me, like where I've lived, you know, when in Dublin, like the Liffey is a tidal river, and you're never that far away from the sea, and so we used to go regularly out to Killiney, which is this beautiful like shoreline, and you can, if you climb to the top of this hill, then you can see like the curve of the bay, which is really, it's kind of like an embrace, like it very much has that like hands holding kind of thing to it, which is just really beautiful, because that's what the outdoors is to me. I think some people see themselves in a kind of challenge against nature, and you know, like pushing yourself to be the best that you can be, and I think that's really, really awesome. For me, it's a little bit more like that's where I go to get clean, and that's how I decompress, and sometimes that's where I go and cry, and sometimes that's just where I go and sit. In London, that can be kind of difficult. Obviously, there isn't, in certain bits of the city, so much green space, which is one of the reasons that I really love living in West London, and I'm willing to sort of compromise on certain other things because I'm so close to parks. There's a lot of trees and there's a lot of nature, because even though I'm a total city kid at heart, like I was born and raised in a city and I've always lived in cities, there is something that happens that's not quite right when all you have is city around you and you need to have something kind of more natural. Obviously, with the small dog, I spend a lot of my time pootling around parks, trying to find like the best spots and where I can go and where he can go, and how we navigate things like that. So yeah, I mean, outdoors for me is part a question of necessity. I mean, I don't get the option to not, even on days when I don't particularly want to leave the house. I obviously have a small man I have to look after, but I do see them as being something that's like healing and slightly saving. It's a very definite kind of saviour complex thing that goes on with it, where I guess I can like emotionally litter or emotionally recycle, like push back my feelings into the earth or into the sea. Because that's how I get normally, and I can always sort of tell when it's time, because there's just a certain bit where I feel like I suddenly need to be just amongst nothing human and everything as natural as can be. In general, I just go outside to breathe, and I think sometimes that can be the hardest thing to remember, that like just go outside, even if it's just to walk down the street and walk back again. Sometimes on your worst moments and on the days when it's hardest, that can be the thing that just helps you keep going for like another 20 minutes. And if you're running your days 20 minutes at a time, then you can get through it. So I'm going to go inside now, away from all the traffic and noise and people on the street and things driving Miles crazy. And I will speak to you guys next week.